Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-0 after today's 20-10 final. A win, the home opener against the Chargers. I'm going to tell you all about why I think Justin Fields needs to continue to start for this team, in a team that has the NFL's most dominant defense, next here on Bleav in Steelers. Welcome in. My name is Mark Bergin. We're going to pay some bills really quickly before I get into my thoughts on today's game. Today's episode of Bleav in Steelers is brought to you by BetOnline.ag. It's NFL Week 3. Week 4 is right around the corner. If you want to get in on the NFL action, BetOnline.ag is the place to do it. You can use our promo code Bleav, that's BLEAV, to get started over at BetOnline.ag. BetOnline, the game starts here. The Steelers win 20-10 against the Chargers, and the Steelers are 3-0 to start the year. A fantastic start, and I thought Justin Fields played his best game to date, certainly his best game for the Steelers today. And he had one interception, but the conviction and the decisiveness on his throws really stuck out to me, in that he has confidence in this system, even if he doesn't have the plethora of talent around him. And you might say, Mark, you're freaking out. The Steelers only scored 20 points today. A few things here. The Chargers have a very good defense. I'm going to start there. Also, Fields didn't have the help he needed from the ground game, particularly in the first half of this game. That got going in the second half. Here's what I'm talking about. First half, where the Steelers are trailing 10-7 going into halftime. The Chargers, one time of possession in the first half. They had the ball for 16 minutes and 40 seconds. The Chargers did in the first half. The Steelers ended up winning time of possession in this game, 33. The Steelers had the ball for 33 minutes and 14 seconds in today's win. It's the third consecutive game where the Steelers have won TOP, time of possession. So we'll start there. The Steelers at halftime had 14 yards rushing. The Steelers finish with, let me see here, 114 yards on the ground. So they get 100 yards of rushing in the second half. And I think that helped flip things, because this defense was dominant today in the second half. The Chargers had -5 yards rushing. -5 yards total in the second half. The Chargers offense had -5 yards of offense in the second half. Quarterback Justin Herbig goes out, bothered by that ankle injury. They're going to need him in future weeks. Taylor Heinicke comes in, and then it's just a race to the quarterback. Talk a little bit about the injuries, but TJ Watt is in the backfield. Nick Herbig getting his opportunity with the injury to Alex Highsmith. Cam Hayward got to the quarterback. It landed Roberts. It was an onslaught to say, meet you at the quarterback for the Steelers. And I thought that was a huge difference in the game today. 5 sacks for the Steelers defensively. And this is a dominant defense. I've said this before, and I'm going to say this again. Since I started hosting Bleav in Steelers in the 2019 season, this is the best Steelers defense I've seen since I've doing this show. This is my 6th season in. I think that highly of this group defensively, and they were on display yet again. And in the second half, the Chargers didn't have a first down in the third quarter. Let me repeat that. The Chargers did not have a single first down in the third quarter. You have a dominant defense, and if you even have an average offense, what this team can do, and you start out the season 3-0 on a beautiful afternoon in Pittsburgh, PA. I'm going to say this too. We'll get to the Steelers' injuries. Alex Highsmith left the game with the groin injury. He did not look happy. I know he was in the medical tent. And then Cory Trice Jr. left the game with a hamstring injury. Certainly, you want both of those players back, and you want Highsmith for depth as well. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Nick Herbig is a better edge rusher, at least at getting to the quarterback, than Alex Highsmith is. Just my 2 cents worth. That's my opinion. What Herbig has done with the opportunities and the defensive snaps that he's had, he's made and taken advantage of every opportunity time and time and time again. And we saw it again when Highsmith went out. I didn't bat an eye. Herbig was everywhere. Herbig was everywhere. And his speed off the edge is what really stands out to me. 3 tackles, 3 solo tackles at that, 2 sacks and 2 TFLs. Like, I know TJ Watt, the attention that he garners, they had to help the rookie Joe Alt, the first-round pick out of Notre Dame, on the right side as much as possible. But when that happens, that opens things up for other players. Herbig off the edge for the Steelers. I want Alex Highsmith back out there because you get a nice three-man rotation, and whichever guy needs a blow, you put whichever players on the sidelines into the game and you don't miss a beat. But I am telling you this right now. And Alex Highsmith is a very good edge rusher. This is nothing to take away from Alex Highsmith. Herbig is better off the edge. And the Steelers probably don't want to do too much with the second-year player. They just awarded Alex Highsmith the contract extension as well. Herbig's better than Highsmith. Folks, let's just be real with this. So when he gets his opportunity, I don't know how much Highsmith, if he'll miss any time. Certainly, you can't afford any other injuries at that position, but the Steelers do not miss a beat with Herbig off the edge on the field. Nick Herbig's been that special, and given his opportunities this year, he's made the most of them this year, dating back to the preseason, dating back to last year in the limited snaps that he saw defensively, and what he can do pairing with TJ Watt. TJ Watt, again, is just an absolute game wrecker. 3 sacks on the season now for Watt. And it's just the attention that he garners off the edge. 3 tackles for Watt, had a sack as well, a TFL as well, 2 quarterback hits. Herbig also had 2 quarterback hits. Again, you need these players defensively. Cory Trice, who's battled back from injuries, came into the league with injuries, had his first career interception a week ago. You want to get him back with the hamstring injury. Certainly the cornerback position is not one of depth for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it doesn't make a difference today. I want to talk a little bit more about Justin Fields. That strike to Calvin Austin III, and Calvin Austin III puts on the afterburners. The decisiveness and the conviction of Fields' throws today. Even there was one throw he had right before the end of the second half. The Steelers are trying to drive down. The drive stalls, and then Chris Boswell tried a 62-yarder. It was a little bit too far out. He had a rip to Pat Freiermuth where the window was so small. So small. Freiermuth couldn't hang on. It was a laser, really fast pass. And it's just the conviction and the decisiveness of getting comfortable with an offensive system. And that's what we saw today with Fields. And he didn't have the ground game to fall back on in the first half. Fields finishes 25 of 32, 245 yards, a touchdown to Calvin Austin III, also had an interception. But how sweet a play it was to Calvin Austin III, 55-yard touchdowns. And Calvin Austin III, 4 catches today on 5 targets. Pickens, again, consistent, 5 catches on 7 targets, 57 yards. Freiermuth, 4 catches, 33 yards, 5 targets as well. I'd probably want to see the Steelers go after a receiver before the November deadline. I know Van Jefferson as well was another player who got injured with an eye injury today. So he left the game. I know Scotty Miller got into the mix a little bit too, but I thought this was Fields' perhaps his best game as a pro, certainly his best game as a Steeler today. And he needs to continue to start. I know Russell Wilson's nearing return from a calf injury, and I don't know how long the Steelers can continue to play that facade out. I think Mike Tomlin's done a masterful job with the PR game of why are we getting into hypotheticals? Justin's going to be the starter. I think there's only so much that you can hold off on that. The way he's been playing at this point, you have to keep Fields on the field. It's as simple as that. The first touchdown, which helps match this game after the Chargers' first touchdown. How about that read option play to Jaylen Warren? It's that type of play when you brought Justin Fields in that you were really excited about. A read option play. He makes the right read. He keeps it, gets into the end zone, and you force a defense to play an honest 11 on 11 because you have to account for Justin Fields' legs and his mobility. What an exciting day. Only 6 rushes for 6 yards for Fields today. You're saying, well, where is that? It's his ability to get 3, 4, 5 yards at a time, and it keeps the clock moving. And the Steelers' offense, the running backs didn't have it in the first half. I thought Najee Harris did a really nice job today to turning in plays where he would have lost yards to get back to the line of scrimmage or get a yard or 2. I thought he ran north and south And I know he's in a contract year too. I don't think the holes were there for him, but it started to open up in the second half. And I think Cordero Patterson too helped with that too. On that Steelers final drive, the first down on the third down play, and the Chargers don't get the ball back. And how about Najee Harris? He could have scored at the end, and it could have been 27-10 or 27-14. How about Najee Harris and the unselfishness to say, you know what? We'll get the first down. We can take a knee and get out of here, 20-10 finish. And I'm sure from a contract standpoint, that extra touchdown helps him in saying, hey, I had this many rushing touchdowns. That's an unselfish play right there. And it's a smart play because the Chargers don't get the ball back. And it's not that I expect Taylor Heineke to lead the Chargers down and score multiple times against this dominant defense. But why even give them the opportunity? And credit Najee Harris there, savvy play. And yes, the Steelers lose the turnover battle today, 1-0, but it didn't cost them, and they ended up winning time of possession after they were down in the first half. Those are my thoughts from today's game. A dominant win. And I really think that this Steelers defense is as good of a unit as there is in the NFL. I think it's the best defense in the NFL. I think it's the best defense in the NFL. Let's get to what Yinz think. A lot of people checking in, excited after the Steelers win against the Chargers. I'll get to some of your comments right now. What I want to know is, even when Highsmith is healthy, look, we could talk about Fields and Russ, the quarterback. Like, I really think that Herbig's better than Highsmith. And I think Highsmith's an excellent, Highsmith and Watt are among the best edge duos in the league. I think that highly of Herbig off the edge. Who do you want to see, Herbig or Highsmith? And ideally, you have all three, and it's like, let the coaches choose. Temple checking in saying Herbig is a special. Casual Friday checking in saying Herbig is just a playmaker. Yeah, like TJ Watt, a magnet to the ball. And I'm not saying Herbig is TJ Watt, but given his opportunities, that dude just makes plays off the edge. And it's the speed. It's like the opposing offensive tackles are going in slow motion. Lifelong fan 07 saying Calvin Austin III had a great game. Probably his best game as a Steeler to this point. And that touchdown opened up the game. A dynamic, explosive play, 55 yards on the pitch and catch, and the ensuing run afterwards where he can utilize his speed in the open field. That's why the Steelers drafted him in the first place. Casual Friday also bringing this up. Very little penalties. Let that go unnoticed. Let me pull up the box score right now, because this was a point of emphasis for Mike Tomlin going into this week. The Steelers were penalized 19 times going into this week. They were the second most penalized team in the NFL. So this week at practice, what they did is Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, they had officials and referees reffing the practice situations because there were too many penalties. The Steelers only had 3 penalties today for 15 yards. The Chargers, 7 penalties for 69 yards. So only 3 penalties, 15 yards of penalties for the Steelers. That's huge. That is absolutely huge. One other thing I noticed too, Mason McCormick coming in for Spencer Anderson at the guard position. Steelers still need to get Isaiah Seumalo back at the guard position, but I believe that was a benching. I don't think that was injury related at all. If anyone has any other insight in the comments, please let me know. That's something I noticed, where McCormick came into the game at some point in the second half for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Timmer checking in saying, didn't hear from Broderick Jones today. Thumbs up. Sometimes no news is good news. And certainly Khalil Mack got in there. Khalil Mack a little bit past his prime at this point. I know he's into his 30s, but he's really good. But the Steelers were also the beneficiaries of Joey Bosa being banged up. I know Bosa tried to give it a go, and he just couldn't stay out on the field. I know he's dealing with nagging injuries as well. Steelers luck out, because this is a really good Chargers defense. Going into this game, you knew it was going to be a low-scoring game, 30 points combined for the two teams. I think the over-under was something like 35, maybe 35.5. So you knew points were going to be a premium in this one. The Chargers have a very good defense. I expect nothing less from a Jim Harbaugh coach team. Derwin James at the safety position is an absolute dog. That guy is an absolute stud at the safety position. I know, like Minkah Fitzpatrick, he's one of the highest paid safeties in the league. That dude can ball. And the Steelers able to get it done today. Michael's saying Herbig is much more explosive than Alex. With Herbig, what I notice is the speed off the edge. I said this a little while ago. I think that when Herbig gets a good jump off the edge, it's like the opposing offensive tackle is moving in slow motion. I think the speed rush is his go-to move. I think Highsmith has a little bit more power and weighs more as well. Ultimately, all three. The fact that you have the luxury of TJ Watt, of Alex Highsmith, of Nick Herbig off the edge. Wow. Wow. Like what a plethora of riches you have. And hopefully Highsmith's injury is not that bad. But Nick Herbig today coming in, filling in for an injured Alex Highsmith, making the most of his defensive snaps yet again. Mark Miller saying Broderick Jones made a statement today. He was damn good. Again, the Chargers have a good defense. Bosa, Khalil Mack. I know Bosa didn't play much. Bud Dupree is the one who had the interception of Justin Fields today, the former Steeler. But yeah, I didn't hear Broderick Jones' name on the broadcast penalties. I'll need to go back and watch some tape. Sometimes no news is good news. The criticism I'd have, and I'd need to watch more tape again, in the first half, 14 yards rushing will not cut it for this offensive line. They finished with 114 yards of rushing in the second half. But 14 yards rushing, that's why I think Fields played such a good game today. Because you might look at the stats and say 20 points, and Mark, he had one touchdown pass. Most of the yardage came, 55 of the 245 yards through the air came on the long connection with Calvin Austin III. But it was the situation that he was in because he didn't have the ground game to fall back on for probably the first 2/3 of this game today. The first 2/3 of this game. Broderick had a chance to get out of the doghouse with Troy out, and hopefully he's doing just that. I'm with you there. Casual Friday bring up a great point because Troy Fautanu, we find out on Friday, is on IR. He's going to be out indefinitely. And for the foreseeable future, you're going to have Broderick Jones at right tackle and Dan Moore Jr. at left tackle because Fautanu's not healthy enough to go with that injury. So for better or for worse, you've got who you've got. And I know there was one play where Broderick Jones, Dan Moore Jr. got beat by Khalil Mack off the edge. Najee Harris missed a chip block. But Khalil Mack, at his peak, was one of the best edge rushers in the league. There's a reason for that. And even at his advanced age into his 30s, he's a really good player still. He's a really, really good player. Fausto checking in, saying that it looks like the running game of protection improved with McCormick in the game. Yeah, Spencer Anderson was on the bench. I don't think it was injury related. I think this was a benching, and they're saying, hey, we're going to make a replacement. Isaiah Seumalo's working his way back from a pectoral injury. When he comes back, I'm of the opinion that Seumalo is the Steelers' best offensive lineman. And so for these first 3 weeks, you haven't had him at the guard position. Excites me to see what the Steelers can do when he gets back onto the field. But McCormick went in at some point in the second half. Faustino, thank you for checking in. Thank you for checking in. Those are really my thoughts. Chad bringing up a good point. Chad, thank you for checking in. Chad saying the Chargers took 2 balls out of the end zone on kickoffs. Big mistake for field position. Great observation there, Chad. I'd have to see where exactly they wound up, but I know it was like inside the 15-yard line. You talk about flipping the field and take the touchback, right? Chad, really good observation there. Really good observation there. Tony saying, great game, called to perfection. Looks like Justin may be the future. He might be. And at least for now, he's going to continue to start for the Steelers, regardless of Russell Wilson's health. Keep an eye on that from the storyline standpoint when you can't just say, oh, the calf injury. That's going to be a facade after a certain point. But really, if you have it, what I would want to know is if you are a proponent of starting Wilson, what's your argument? And other than to say, oh, well, points. Because a week ago, it was penalties. And today, Fields performed even though he didn't have a running game. He had no running game in the first half, and he's aided by finally getting going in the second half and a dominant defensive performance in the second half. I cannot underscore that enough of how well the Steelers defense flied to the football. And what it's like if you're an opposing offense when you get that relentless pursuit to the ball and a race to the quarterback. It feels like there's like 15 defenders out on the field. And really the only play where it was like, oh, what happened here was the first touchdown surrendered. It looked like Justin Herbert looked off both Joey Porter Jr. and Minkah Fitzpatrick in the secondary. And the route they ran on that touchdown pass to I believe it was Quentin Johnson of the Chargers, was a classic cover 2 beater route where it's just past the corner playing the flat, and then you have a 2-high shell with the safeties. Minkah didn't get there in time. Joey Porter Jr. didn't have enough depth on that play, and that's the reason the receiver was wide open. Other than that play, I think this defense played outstanding today. And credit Justin Herbert there. He knows how to look off a DB. Justin Herbert's a good quarterback, even though he's limited with that ankle injury today. This is why I'm so high on this win, because the first 2 weeks, okay, you beat Kirk Cousins, who's a bit of a statue at this point in his career, and then you beat Bo Nix, a rookie, and now you beat a really good quarterback, and you go into week 4, and you're going to go on the road, and you're going to go and take on the Colts. And you got to take away Anthony Richardson's mobility, but the Steelers 3-0. Flying high and really relying on this defense, and Justin Fields performing at a high level right now. You got to continue to start him if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. I want to thank all of you for tuning in and watching the Bleav in Steelers post-game show. My name is Mark Bergin. Terry checking in saying Fields had almost 300 yards. Calvin almost got 100 yards. Let me get those totals for you. 245 yards through the air for Justin Fields. He had 6 yards rushing, so not quite to 300. But then Calvin Austin III, 4 catches for 95 yards, 55 of those coming on the touchdown pass from Justin Fields. Going to be very interesting to see how the Steelers play out the Fields and Wilson situation. Keep an eye on that. You got the Colts in week 4. You're on the road, but you're 3-0 going into that game. It's got to feel good if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to go ahead and wrap there. Hope all of you enjoy the rest of your Sundays. Thanks for making Bleav in Steelers part of your day. If you enjoyed listening to Bleav in Steelers, go leave us a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can leave a super chat if you want to financially support this show. Certainly appreciated. And on YouTube, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, because we're going to continue rolling here as the Steelers continue their winning ways. Steelers, winners today against the Chargers, 20-10. Again, my name is Mark Bergin. Thanks so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Sundays. I'll see you this upcoming week. Until then, take care, and so long, everybody.